morning, everybody. How's it going? Ooh, happy Saturday. Good morning, good morning. It's farmer's market day for us. It's also officially the day when I will have all the slime orders mailed. I only have 4 more to do this morning, and it's just because I had to email those people about a couple of things. So that's pretty exciting, right? Good morning. I have so much snow. Oh, too much snow. Ooh. Jeez, I am clumsy this morning. Did you see that? That pod went flying. Oh, it's a flying pod. Flying pod time. Helen is having so much fun with her calendar. Yay, I'm glad to hear it. Em and I are sorting laundry this morning. Oh, it's perfect time for a body double. Good morning, good morning. New water heater day. Oh, that's interesting. New water heater day. Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. We'll get started as soon as I'm done making coffee. The colors for the ice haven't arrived yet. What does that mean? The colors for the ice haven't arrived yet? I don't know what that means. The colors for the ice. Oh, I see. How many things are you putting in your coffee? Well, today I'm putting in 4 things because I want to try to start putting a little bit of oat milk in my coffee because it's like good for postpartum milk production. I don't usually put oat milk in my coffee, but it's something I heard was good. So I found a sugar-free one that I'm going to try. Maybe I'll like it, maybe I won't, but let's see if it helps out having a little bit of oat every morning. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but give it a go. How was your holidays in yesterday? It was great. Yes, I did buy coconut water as well, Mary. I did as well. But coconut water will not be a morning drink for me. That is more of an afternoon drink. Is the baby still cooking a lot? Yes, she is. She's a very kicky baby. She's gonna dance. I'll tell you what, this child is gonna be a tap dancer. She has informed my bladder that they are her tap dancing stage. Morning, Catherine. I'm going to tell my mom, since my mom is on here, that is not your daughter, Catherine, even though she spells it the same way. I don't want my mom to get confused seeing the spelling of your name and think that you are my sister. You are our other Catherine who spells it the same way, which is exciting. But my sister Catherine does not have a TikTok. Sasha, I'm in England with my girlfriend. That's exciting. Whereabouts in England? We went to England last year. My bump is so cute. Thank you. She's very bumpy. She's very bumpy. But I can still see my feet and I can still tie my shoes, you guys. Missed seeing your slime rolls the last couple of days. Hope you're well. Oh, thank you. Yes. We did 3 roll for slimes this week. Can you believe that? That's a lot of roll for slime ones. 3 in 1 week. It was a busy week. It was a very busy week for us, but we're coming to the end of this week, and next week will be a little bit calmer because we don't have restock next week, you know, so that's nice, I think, anyway. It's nice for me. My in-laws are coming in a week from today, so Nikki, how did everything go with your house yesterday? Are you having any snow? Oh no, we live in California. We have no snow. No, this is Los Angeles. If we had snow, I would think that something had gone very wrong. I would be really concerned. I'd be like, we're canceling book club and we're gonna go talk to the meteorologists about this, because it's a little scary. I like snow though. We plan to take the baby to see snow one day. But not today. All right, let's see how this tastes with the oat milk. Not bad. It's not my favorite, but it's not bad. We need a book time emoji, yeah. It's usually in like the 50s or 60s here, Melly. You know, just about. It's okay. I don't know if I'm gonna want it in my coffee every day, but it's fine for now. I'm gonna say it's fine. Maybe I'll use it for like, hey Liz. Good morning, good morning. All right. You guys can see our tree. Dun, 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 dun. You can see Ariel right there. That's an Ariel ornament. I bought this ornament when I worked at Disneyland when I was 18 years old. I've had it that long, if you can believe that. Can't wait to take a shower. Oh, when you get your hot water heater fixed? Yeah, I bet. Thank you, Melly. That's very kind of you. We like it. You know, it's fun. It's got some cool stuff. You know, it fits the vibes here. Apparently I cut my finger. I don't remember when or how, but I guess I did. So, today is day 2 of our new book, which is exciting. Emma's shock face was priceless, saying you worked at Disneyland. Oh yes, Emma, when I was younger, I worked at Disneyland. That's right. I did do that. What brand of oat milk did you use? Khalifa. Do we get Shira again? I don't know. We can try to find out. She said she wanted to hear this book very much, so let's message her and see if she's going to join us for this book. Let's see. We'll give her another minute before we start reading and see if she wants to join. Hey, Kimberly. Before I do start reading, I just want to remind everyone that all orders, whether you chose priority mail or not, yeah, I have Addie. Whether you chose priority mail or not, all orders from my restock will be shipped out before noon today. Restock was just on Wednesday, so that's pretty good. Hey, Ray. Aldi. Yeah, but it's like not in a good neighborhood. Khalifa's my favorite. Yeah, Khalifa's great. Khalifa's a great brand for all sorts of stuff. I like them quite a lot. Yes. We usually just go to Ralph's, honestly. We just go to Ralph's. We're pretty like middle of the road, like no funny business, nothing fancy. It's just a regular old Ralph's, normal, you know, that kind of thing. Well, the thing is, Roxy, I can only have sugar-free creamers, so a lot of stuff I can't have because I have to find ones that are specifically sugar-free. We love a brand that believes in the people. We do. So in case were not here yesterday, we are reading a book called The Matzah Ball, and it is a Hanukkah rom-com, which is very exciting, and we are going to get into it. I will find out what my work uses for espresso coffees. It's really good. Oh yeah, no worries. I mean, I actually really love what we do every day, and if I'm being honest with you guys, I'm probably never gonna change it. I tried that oat milk because we had it for something else, but I really like my coffee the way that I usually make it, and I don't really want to change. It was just something I decided to try this morning. So while I do appreciate the offers, I think I'm probably just gonna go back to what I usually do, and then we'll use this oat milk for something else, because it really does taste oaty in my coffee, and I genuinely like coffee, so I'd rather my coffee just taste like coffee. I don't know. I like the way I make my coffee usually, so I'll probably just stick with it. So don't go out into any stress. Sorry to bail, last night we watched nearly... Oh, that's amazing. I love that, Ray. You cook with it as a substitute? Yeah, we're a pretty dairy-heavy family, so we don't really use a lot of substitutes. The reason we had the oat milk actually was because my goddaughter is allergic, and I was assigned to make mashed potatoes for Thanksgiving, but I wanted to make mashed potatoes that my goddaughter could eat. So instead of using milk, we used the oat milk, and she loved it. So that's why I had leftover, and I was like, well, I should just try it, but not my cup of tea. But that's okay. I'll use it for other things. All right. Chapter 3. Rachel awoke to the sound of the alarm clock buzzing on the nightstand beside her bed. Turning beneath the covers, she blinked, and she took careful accounting of how she was feeling. Would it be a good day, or would it be a bad day? She could never be certain. Some mornings she woke up feeling well, only to find herself completely depleted 2 hours later. Sometimes it was the opposite. She would crash for days at a time with no ability to do even the most menial tasks. Her disease was constant but fluid. It peaked and ebbed with only one discernible pattern. Everything she did, everything, from writing 2 pages to carrying the groceries 1 block to her apartment, came with a kickback. It was her normal. Dragging herself to the kitchen, she began her morning routine. Meds, coffee. There was always the need for coffee. Just like she'd always set her meetings for late morning, showers were saved for special occasions because those required standing and holding your arms above your head while you rinse the shampoo out of your hair, all of which, though she couldn't completely understand how, seemed to require an extraordinary amount of effort. Otherwise, she preferred baths where she could lie down. When Rachel was finally dressed, when she stood in front of her mirror and checked herself one last time before departing, the irony of her life was apparent. She didn't look sick. If anything, she appeared the picture of polished charm, perfect health. Tight black skirt, white silk blouse, and she would tie it all together with a smart red coat and a designer bag. This was an important meeting with her publisher, after all. Rachel exited her apartment and hailed a cab. She knew the subway would be cheaper and faster, but she had to do careful cost-benefit analysis to guard her energy. Like one of those video games that she would play with Mickey, she ran the stats. Showering, -10 damage. Cab, +15 strength. Sitting in a room for 45 minutes and talking to a panel of editors, yeah, she was going to need an extra life for that. Rachel wasn't sure when this chronic illness calculator first appeared in her brain, but it ran continuously in the background, as essential to her well-being as food and water was. Climbing into the cab, she tried not to think about it. Today was a good day. Thanks be to Mickey. He'd saved her valuable energy points by picking up the Margaritaville Santa for her from the post office, and as the driver pulled away, Rachel made a point to text her best friend. Hey, just wanted to say thank you again for last night. Her phone buzzed only a second later. Girl, don't even worry about it. You know I got your back, was the reply. Rachel smirked. Sinking into the seat, she put the phone away. She wasn't worried. She knew she never had to explain herself with Mickey. He simply took her at her word forever and from the beginning, which was rare in a world where very few people understood chronic illness. Still, she felt guilty. She wanted to be a better friend. She wanted to call more often. She wanted to show up when he threw parties, but Rachel was far too focused on simply surviving, and CFS was a disease that cast a wide net of suffering. When the cab pulled up to the 33-story tower of glass that was Romance House, Rachel entered the building to find her agent, Lisa Brown, waiting by the elevators. Her cell phone Her cell phone was pinned between her ear and her neck, and Lisa was too busy taking notes on a potential new contract to even notice her arrival. Rachel tapped gently on her shoulder, and Lisa jumped, surprised. "Oh, 1 second," Lisa said into her phone, and then mouthed the words, "You look fabulous," to Rachel. Rachel warmed into a smile. Mission accomplished. No one in Rachel's professional circle knew about her disease. Not her agent, not her editors. She wasn't hiding it from them, obviously. It simply had never come up in conversation. At least that's what she told herself. Besides, she reasoned that after 10 years of working together, it would be really weird to tell her agent now. Like that show on MTV where people learned that they'd been catfished, the poor woman would suddenly have an image of her client that did not line up with the photo she'd been looking at all these years. What would happen then? She needed her publishing contract and she needed her book deals. There was no 9-to-5 job in Rachel's future. Her body was simply not reliable enough to function on a normal full-time schedule. Lisa finished her phone call and turned her attention to Rachel. "So," she said with the fiery zeal of a linebacker during the Super Bowl, "are you ready?" "Oh, I'm ready," Rachel shot back. "All right, let's do this then." The 16th floor of Romance House was where the most important meetings were held. Coming off the elevator, the duo was greeted by Sasha, the intern, who quickly led them to the main conference room. "Happy to lead you to the conference room. Right this way, ladies." It doesn't really say that, but since it's Sasha, I figured I could superimpose myself in. The chaperone wasn't necessary. Rude. Ew, they just kicked me out of the book. That was sad. Help, is this author using the character's name a lot instead of she, her, or does it just seem like that? It almost always says that, but I think the reason that they're doing that, Ray, is because there's two she's in the same chapter, or I mean, you know what I mean? They're talking. So if it said she instead of Lisa and Rachel, we wouldn't know which one was which. So I understand the confusion because it's your name, but like for me as a reader, it's so much better when they use names when it's two people talking to each other. Thank you, nice, I appreciate that. Because like otherwise it would be like, wait, which she? You know what I mean? So I think that's probably why, if I had to guess as a writer. The chaperone wasn't necessary. Meetings with her publisher were a lot like synagogue services. They had a flow and a pattern. They were obligatory handshakes, the traditional offering of coffee, the pointing out of breakfast muffins and sandwiches before someone inevitably made a joke about going off their diet. It was all pleasantries and niceties doled out among 4 different editors, 2 marketing executives, and Chandra Bouchard, Romance House CEO. Until finally, the group agreed to sit down around the conference table and get to work. "So, Rachel," Chandra smiled at her from across the room. Her large gold ring encrusted with diamonds and an emerald glimmered. "We wanted to thank you again for taking the time to come in and meet with us today. As you know, your current contract is up, and we are all just so very curious about what you have planned next." "Yeah, of course," Rachel smiled. "I would be happy to share what I'm thinking about." Rachel had a zillion ideas and tore through them, curious which one would stick. There was the Texas cowboy with the secret triplet babies, the forsaken politician meeting a big city reporter during a blizzard, the canine detective and the veterinarian thrown together and finding a litter of abandoned puppies. They were tried and true stories, all taking place over Christmas, with hooks and twists that her readers loved. Her agent nodded and smiled, her editors listened intently, and then, when she had exhausted almost every viable idea that she had come up with for this meeting, she waited for a response. But instead there was silence. It was weird. Normally, after a pitch session, there were wows and accolades. One year, Chandra Bouchard herself had risen from her chair to hug Rachel and declare her Romance House's most valuable player in her idiosyncratic slow drawl. Today, there were no enthusiastic exclamations, no editors chiming in with notes. There was simply a strange and awkward silence. The bizarre way that everyone at the table was casting furtive glances at one another. What is it? Rachel asked, and Lisa inched closer. Well, we were thinking this year that maybe you could try something, different. Different? Well, something that will feel really authentic, Chandra chimed in. Something with, I don't know, a little less Christmas. Less Christmas? Rachel laughed at the statement. All I write is Christmas. More silence. And then Chandra Bouchard came out with it. Well, we want you to write a Hanukkah romance. What? Rachel knocked over her coffee cup and lukewarm brown liquid splattered all over her white blouse. The editorial assistant rushed off to offer her napkins, but Rachel was too shell-shocked by her publisher's ambush to make a sense of what was even happening. Oh, you know, Chandra said, speaking with her hands, a Hanukkah romance, like one of your Christmas stories, just make it Jewish. You can do that, right? Now Rachel was the one left speechless. Hanukkah was not Christmas. What's the problem? Chandra asked. It's just, you're Jewish, aren't you? Well, yeah. And isn't your father some sort of world famous rabbi? Rachel did not want to talk about her father. It's just, she stammered. Hanukkah isn't magical. Of course it's magical, Chandra bellowed, looking to her staff for confirmation. There's the menorah and that little top thing that spins. And what are those other things called? Late keys? Potato late keys? Surely you can come up with something else from there. Rachel could feel the bubbles rising up in her chest. By the way, you guys, I'm not mispronouncing Laka. She spelled it out, late keys. How could she explain to this well-meaning and good-intentioned group of non-Jewish folk that there was a reason no one had ever written a Hanukkah romance before? Jews didn't throw dreidel decorating parties. They didn't hold late key making competitions. You couldn't wrap a blue ribbon around a squirming Labrador puppy and leave it beneath the menorah for children to find. Labrador puppies would get burned. Instead, if her publisher wanted a true and honest look at Hanukkah in the American Jewish community, it would be 2 nights worth of semi-decent presents, followed by 6 nights worth of school supplies. Look, Chandra said, suddenly getting serious, I didn't want to bring this up, but the sales on your last 3 Christmas books, well, They haven't been great. People don't want to read the same old thing anymore, Rachel. They want diversity. They want experience and world reflection. And Christmas is just so last year. It's time to spice things up. Bring in the Jews. Everybody loves a Jew. That's actually famously not true, actually. Well, think of the movie deals, Lisa interjected. Netflix, Amazon? Exactly, Chandra said, nodding like a bobblehead. Now's the time. Everyone's chomping at the bit for a proper Hanukkah romance. I really think if you value your relationship with us as your publisher, that you will take this opportunity. Rachel swallowed hard. What are you trying to say? I'm saying, Chandra met her eyes directly, that we will not be offering Margaret Cross another year of contracts for Christmas romances. However, there is an opportunity for Rachel Rubenstein Goldblatt to keep working with Romance House, provided that she writes us a Hanukkah novel. Yes, I'm so sorry, Emma. I promise you, Sasha was not mispronouncing luck because the character was mispronouncing it. The author wrote it out misspelled. So I did that for the, dramatic effect of Chandra as a character. Well, that's not good. All right, are we ready for more? Let's keep going. I love these short little chapter quips. They're like totally in our style, so we can do a lot, Chapter 4. It was panic. Pure and unadulterated panic set inside Rachel Rubenstein Goldblatt as she raced out of Romance House. Standing on a bustling New York street during lunchtime rush hour, she tried not to cry, but her Christmas snow globe world had just been rattled. Rachel, Lisa was chasing after her. Please, can you hold on a second? And Rachel spun around, fist balled up at her sides. She could not play nice anymore. She was mad. She was furious. Tears welled up in her eyes. You ambushed me, Lisa. You and Chandra, you completely ambushed me. Okay, look, I just found out this morning, okay?
she said out of breath. I swear, Caitlin called me this morning and told me what they were thinking, and I'm sorry I didn't give you some warning. I got caught up in like a Twitter thing with some other client. Twitter? But Lisa interrupted her. I also didn't think it would be a problem for you. I mean, you've been wanting to retire Margot Cross for some time now, right? Here's your chance. I thought you'd be happy. Rachel bit her lip. There was truth to what Lisa was saying, even though it was a bitter pill to swallow. This wasn't just an opportunity to bury Margot Cross once and for all, but to potentially publish under her own name. She could stop lying to her parents. She could stop lying to, well, honestly, everyone. Still, Christmas had been a red and green blanket that she wrapped herself up in for the last decade. It had protected her and kept her fighting, even on her very worst days. Beyond all these things, Rachel knew Christmas. She loved Christmas. She had none of those warm, fuzzy feelings that she would need to switch gears like that. How am I supposed to write a book about Hanukkah? Rachel asked, deflated. Well, what do you do for your Christmas books? Lisa asked. You draw inspiration from real life and then you just make it magical. So do the same thing here. You live on the Upper West Side. You're connected to the Jewish community. Go around and see what people are doing. Go out and see how people are celebrating. You'll figure something out. Rachel nodded. She could tell that the conversation was over, and Lisa headed off to another client meeting. Rachel, still in full freakout mode, decided to use the afternoon to heed her agent's advice. She began at the closest department store. For herself to ignore the many aisles of Christmas trees and ornaments, she hunted down, forcing herself to ignore the many aisles of Christmas trees and ornaments, she hunted down the Hanukkah section, which was one sad little shelf display. Unless she was planning on writing a book about Christmas envy, she was going to have to keep looking. Next, she headed to the JCC. After checking in at the front desk of the community center, she wandered the halls, a hyperventilating and panicky mess. She passed by kids on their way home from swim lessons and old Jewish ladies doing group calisthenics in the gym before ripping 10 different flyers about Hanukkah off the notice board. She probably could have stayed for another hour, but the sight of her unbridled anxiety made a security guard ask her to leave. Finally, she went to a popular rabbi at a large synagogue on the Upper East Side. Sitting down in his office, she told him she was writing a book about Hanukkah and that she needed his help. He told her that Hanukkah was a minor holiday and that if she wanted to write a book about an important Jewish holiday, she should try writing about Yom Kippur. She felt as defeated as a Maccabee staring at one night's worth of oil. On the subway to the Upper West Side, the well of emotions Rachel had been holding in throughout the day burst forth in a flood of fully formed tears. Sinking into her seat, she bawled uncontrollably, the smell of coffee from her stained shirt assaulting her nostrils. As if today hadn't been bad enough, she had chosen to wear white. At least, she told herself, if she was alone in the subway car, the indignity of today was saved by this one small fact. It was no use. Her search for inspiration had yielded nothing. There was no way that she would drum up enough excitement to be able to do what Romance House wanted from her. She had no idea how to survive without her publishing contract. She had bills to pay, a 2-bedroom apartment on the Upper West Side to maintain, plus kosher food was freaking expensive. And beyond all these things, there was a never-ending fear lingering alongside her life with chronic illness. How could she survive and remain financially independent if she couldn't work from home and on her own schedule? The panic that she had been pushing down began to rise in her chest. Once again, she needed a miracle. Closing her eyes, Rachel forced herself to calm down. Leaning her head against the window, she listened to the roar of the scraping wheels as the metal creaked beneath her. It was comforting, in a way, the normalcy of it all, the whole of Manhattan just passing by above her, blissfully unaware that her life was falling apart in the subterranean depths below them. And when Rachel opened her eyes, however, there was another surprise waiting her. A Haredi, is it Haredi? Haredi? Haradi, maybe? Haradi? I'm not sure. Man was sitting in the seat across from her. She blinked a few times to make sure that she was certain, and that she glanced down the train car to confirm that it was indeed empty as she remembered. But he was real. Quintessential black hat, long gray beard, and 2 curly peyotes. The newspaper, Jewish World News, was sitting on his lap. He must have been 1,000 years old and capable of moving at high speeds or great distances, but he was suddenly there, just inches away from her, feet almost touching, and smiling warmly in her direction with rosy cheeks and a brown twinkle to his eyes. Shabbat shalom, he said. Shabbat shalom, she replied. He was still smiling as the subway car rolled to a stop. This is Rockefeller Center, the automated subway lady announced, and with great and heavy effort, the old man rose up from his seat. Rachel would have offered to help, but she was acquainted with the lifestyle of the ultra-Orthodox. Men and women outside of marriage were not supposed to touch. Instead, she kept her eyes on the ground and let him have his privacy. The doors parted, the old man stepped out, and in the process, his newspaper fell from beneath his arm. Realizing what had happened, Rachel raced to pick it up. Sir, she shouted, leaning out of the subway car. Sir, you dropped your... But he was gone. The old man had disappeared as quickly as he had arrived. Sitting back down in her seat, she held the newspaper in her lap. Rachel was familiar with the publication. It had been a staple in her childhood home, delivery every Sunday for most of her young life. Maybe because she was still hopeful, or maybe because the old man's seemingly magical appearance inspired her, she opened the newspaper. Flipping through the pages, she skimmed the recent stories. It had all the typical stuff one might expect, a highlight of the Jewish community, and then something caught her eye in the lifestyle section. Sold out Matzah Ball Max promises to be the Hanukkah event of the century. Rachel's hands began to shake. Matzah balls? She knew right away that they weren't talking about the round fluffy dumplings found in chicken soup. Rachel didn't know exactly who had created the first matzo ball, which had existed for nearly 40 years in America, but historically they were large-scale parties held in nightclubs on Christmas Eve and served as a place for Jewish singles to gather together when their non-Jewish friends were off celebrating Christmas. I did not know that. Over the years, the concept of the matzah ball had expanded. They went from parties and clubs to social events sponsored by synagogues to singles events hosted by dating apps such as JMate. They took on strange intonations of their original name, appearing with such titles as Lockapalooza, and became more defined in their target audiences. Some matzah balls were only for people over 50, some were for members of the LGBTQIA+ community, and some were held before Christmas or after Christmas or on ski slopes in Aspen. But this matzah ball max was different from previous varieties because this matzah ball max had a definitive Hanukkah twist. Suddenly the whole world began to make sense. A thunder started in her belly and worked its way up to her chest. The matzah ball max. Yes, this is what she needed. This was the real, authentic Hanukkah experience that could provide a much-needed inspiration for her book. Too bad it was completely sold out. Still, Rachel Rubenstein Goldblatt was not the type to just throw in the Shema. No, she knew a lot of people in the Jewish world, and she was Rabbi Aaron Goldblatt's daughter, after all. There was a chance, albeit a small one, that someone she knew would be able to get her a ticket. She quickly skimmed the article. The whole world has been waiting with bated breath for the Matzah Ball Max to finally launch in New York City. Planned for the 8th night of Hanukkah, this high-end event is completely sold out. Organizers say that the response to their initiative has been overwhelming, and that tickets are nearly impossible to come by at this late date. Jacob Greenberg, mastermind behind such events as Lonchella and Sunburn, is the creator behind the first of the newspaper dropped out of her hands. A small puff of air escaped her quivering lips as the rumbling in her belly twisted into nausea. Could it really be? Could the only person in the entire world capable of getting her a ticket to the matzah ball be Jacob Greenberg? The same Jacob Greenberg who had ruined her first kiss and given her mono and humiliated her in front of everyone at Camp Ahava. The same Jacob Greenberg who had returned to New York and was currently spending Shabbat at her parents' house on Long Island. She hated Jacob Greenberg with a fiery passion, but she needed that ticket. Her career was riding on it. Glancing down at her watch, she noted the time. It was 3:15 on Friday afternoon. Candle lighting and the start of Shabbat, which prohibited travel, began at 5:19. If she ran through the stations and didn't meet any delays on the track, she would just make it home in time for Shabbat dinner. No doubt her mother would be thrilled. Email. From Rachel Rubenstein Goldblatt, with the email address margotcross@northpole.com, to Lisa Brown. Friday, December 10th. Subject, Hanukkah romance. Lisa, sorry for freaking out at you after the meeting today. I just didn't expect to be asked to write a Hanukkah romance. Frowny face. I've been thinking about what you said, and you're right. I can totally handle this. I'm heading out to Long Island to do some first-class Hanukkah research. Hopefully it yields good results. Wish me mazel, Rachel. P.S. I'll be at my parents' house for Shabbat, so, no phone. The car service that brought Jacob from the airport to Rabbi Goldblatt's house arrived 45 minutes before the candle lighting. Walking up to the house, Jacob took a centering breath. It was a modest house, made of white stone stucco, and sat within walking distance of the congregation Beth Or. Even as he approached, Jacob knew he was about to enter a Jewish home. The scent of kugel, the chicken soup wafted through the air. 3 little girls in winter coats and long skirts played on a swing set under the watchful eye of their father. And although it was still daylight, the sun less than an hour away from setting, the porch light had been left on for receiving visitors. Shabbat was coming. Jacob loved these aspects of Jewish life. There was a focus on tradition and doing the right thing. Tikkun Olam. I hope I'm saying that right. I don't know if I am. It's Tikkunolam. Tikkun Olam. In order to make the world a better place. All the things that he had wanted as a child and never got. Well, Jacob, Dr. Rubenstein flung open the front door. Shabbat Shalom. Without warning, she threw her arms around him, squeezing him tightly. He had not seen her for many years, not since she had come to the airport in Manhattan armed with 3 different types of kugel to visit his mother. But he remembered how kind Dr. Rubenstein had been, how she would sit at the kitchen table with his mother for hours, listening intently while she cried, head in her hands, woman on the verge of losing absolutely everything. Well, my, Dr. Rubenstein stepped back. You certainly have gotten handsome. Jacob blushed. Oh, I don't know about that. She kept her hands on his arms, gentle and supportive. And so tall. What are they feeding you in France? Jacob laughed. Honestly, I just eat a lot of takeout. Oh, well, it must be the takeout then. She smiled kindly. Indeed, their paths may never had crossed had it not been that one fateful summer before 7th grade. After Rachel stood Jacob up at Camp Ahava's final dance, he called her house repeatedly, demanding to speak to her. It was the non-stop, tearful badgering that led Dr. Rubenstein to finally demand to speak to his mother. And then the truth came out. The emphasis is on the U in tikkun. Tikkun and olam. Okay, got it. Tikkun and olam. Although not a complicated story, it was one that he avoided sharing with others. When Jacob was in 6th grade, his mother fell ill. In the span of a week, she went from being his loving, devoted, and completely healthy mother to a woman who could barely walk, and soon the paralysis got worse. His mother struggled to form words. She struggled with incontinence, and she spent 2 weeks in the hospital before doctors diagnosed her with multiple sclerosis. His father's response to this news by working more. He worked evenings and weekends before disappearing on business trips, and his mother's euphemism was that for shacking up with a woman named Peggy who lived downtown. Eventually, his father stopped coming home at all. He abandoned them, refusing to return phone calls or even show up for visits like he promised. Of course, Jacob wasn't completely alone. He had his Bubby, his father's mother, who thankfully lived in New York and did her best to reason with her wayward son, while simultaneously supporting her French daughter-in-law and American-born grandson. He had kind members of the Jewish community like Dr. Rubenstein, armed with her kugels and warm heart. And then his mother made the difficult decision to take Jacob and move back to her native home of France. Not that she had any real choice in the matter. Even his Bubby agreed it was the right thing to do. His mother had family in France. She could speak the language, and more important, she had access to nationalized health care in a system that she could maneuver. 12-year-old Jacob couldn't rationalize the upheavals. He blamed his mother for getting sick, and it was his father's fault. It was her fault. His father had left. Ooh. If she had only been stronger, he wouldn't be living in some foreign country where everyone pointed out his American accent. And he took all of his anger out on his mother. And now as a man, he understood it was not his mother who had failed him. It was her disease and the medical establishment and his father who up and abandoned them the moment things got rough. But Jacob didn't really understand the magnitude of his mistakes or the time that he lost with her in making them until his mother was diagnosed with stage 4 breast cancer 2 years ago. She died 6 months later. Jacob would always carry the scars of his youth, but he could make peace with scars. No, what kept Jacob up at night, what compelled him to throw lavish events and donate large portions of the proceeds to MS research were his own mistakes. All right, come now, Dr. Rubenstein said, waving for him to enter. Come inside. Let's get you situated before Shabbat. Most of the guests will be arriving after services. Jacob picked up his luggage, following her inside. He had never been in the Rubenstein Goldblatt home before. Quickly, she ran him through a tour of the premises. There was the entryway with the large ketubah? Not sure. Or marriage contract was displayed. The kitchen, where 16 different types of parve cookies were piled high. And in the living room, a young woman, her head covered by a scarf, was rocking... Ketrub. Oh, Ketrub. Okay. Was rocking a baby while making conversation with two gray-haired old women wearing pants. Jacob took in this picture of Jewish life and community. Jewish art, a mixture of pastels and angles, decorated the wall. The books, both fiction and otherwise, were spilling from every end table and shelving unit. But it was the Shabbat dinner, so lovingly set with large white tablecloth and two covered shallot, that made his soul ache. He so desperately wanted this for himself one day, a home that would welcome... Ketubah. Oh, Ketubah. Ketubah. Okay, got it. Or Ketubah. He wondered if one of the 22 metal folding chairs arranged around the table would belong to Rachel, but he didn't have the courage to ask that out loud. "Oh, you must be exhausted," Dr. Rubenstein said sympathetically. "No, I'm used to bouncing around time zones." "Yeah, I heard," she said with a wide smile. "You're a big party planner now?" Yeah, that's correct." "Do you ever get tired of it?" "What?" "Well, all the parties, all the noise. It must get disorienting bouncing around like that. Doesn't leave much time for family." Her eyes wandered down to his left hand. "Or for dating. Are you dating anyone, Jacob?" Jacob smiled politely. No." "Really?" She touched her heart. "I can't believe it. Someone as handsome and successful as you." Jacob cracked his jaw, unsure of how to answer that question. I guess I just haven't found the right person yet. "Well," Dr. Rubenstein linked one arm inside his own, "maybe we can change that this weekend, You know, there's a belief in the Jewish culture that every person in the world has another person that they're destined to marry. You're b'shert, a soul God cut and created, designated just for you. Isn't that just the loveliest concept?" It is beautiful. "I wonder who your b'shert will be," she said sweetly before stopping in front of the guest bedroom. "This is where you'll be staying for Shabbat. Towels are in the closet, bathroom is to the right. Shabbat timers are in the nightstand. No pressure to use them, of course. As I tell everyone who enters my home, you're our guest. You do whatever you're comfortable with in terms of observance, okay?" "Well, thank you, Dr. Rubenstein. Wonderful," she said, turning to leave. "Then come to the kitchen after you're settled. I'll get you a little something to nosh on before the services." Dr. Rubenstein returned to the kitchen as Jacob sat down on the bed, smiling. It was nice to see that some people truly never change. His eyes drifted to the hallway. A few doors down, he could make out the pink walls of an adjacent bedroom. He wondered if that had once belonged to Rachel, and then decided firmly that it must have. Who else would have pink walls in the Rubenstein Goldblatt house? Only Rachel. Rachel only had one other sibling, an older brother. Jacob could almost envision the girl he'd once known, with the hot pink shorts and a high ponytail, racing through these halls. But where was she now? Over the years, he had tried to find her. He hunted her down on Facebook and he searched for connections on LinkedIn. In a world where everyone had some sort of social media account or profile, Rachel Rubenstein Goldblatt was a ghost. There was no online imprint of her anywhere. It was really odd. Even his 91-year-old Bubby had an Instagram account now, though Jacob had no evidence to support it. He got the sense that Rachel avoided visibility on purpose. She had always been good at hiding. Peeking down the hallway to make sure no one was coming, he headed toward her bedroom. Quietly, he pushed open the door, and an explosion of pink frills were juxtaposed with shelves stuffed full of books. They met him at his entrance. He couldn't help himself. Glancing back behind him to make sure the coast was clear, he stepped inside her room. He started with the bookshelves. She must have had hundreds of novels, everything from literary masterpieces to commercial fiction in both English and Hebrew. She was clearly a reader, but what surprised him most was the vast collection of philosophy books on the bottom two shelves. He ran his fingers over names he barely recognized. Maimonides, Kaplan, Sachs. He recognized Foucault, though. The only thing that rivaled the number of books in her small bedroom were the photographs. Covering every inch of free wall space were self-made collages of family and friends. Jacob leaned in closer to inspect them. There were so many of them. Bar mitzvahs, trips to Israel, family vacations, summers at Camp Ahava. A lifetime of love. Jacob swallowed hard. He had pictures of his life too. They littered his Instagram and his Facebook feeds, garnering thousands of likes. Beautiful women were hanging off his shoulders, buddies toasting to their good fortune on the deck of a 50-foot yacht. Jacob knew countless celebrities, but if you asked him to name half the people in his photos, he wouldn't really be able to do so. If you wondered aloud which of those rich and famous folks he knew when his mother died, he would shrug his shoulders and say, it didn't matter. Like most of Instagram, Jacob and his life were fake. Returning to the kitchen, Jacob found Dr. Rubenstein stirring chicken soup. "I'm so very sorry to hear about your mother," she said. "Oh, yeah, thank you." She shook her head sadly. "She was such a lovely woman." Jacob nodded. Even though his mother had passed almost 2 years ago, he did find it hard to talk about the loss. Dr. Rubenstein put down the spoon, wiping her hands on a kitchen towel. Perhaps her many years in the as a Rebbetzin in the thriving Jewish community had made her doubly sensitive to the way a young man could shift in his loafers and avoid a question, because she broke into a wide smile and immediately changed the topic. "So, do you like potato salad?" she asked, heading for the refrigerator. I love potato salad. "I have 3 different kinds," she grinned. "One with dill." Dill was apparently all the rage in American potato salad. Dr. Rubenstein began piling it up on a plate, and Jacob sat down to eat, grateful for the opportunity to avoid any conversation. It was his mother's loss that brought Jacob back to his Jewish roots. He was consumed by guilt and sadness over her death, and he had decided to take up the ancient tradition of reciting the mourner's Kaddish. 3 times a day for almost a year, he went to a synagogue in Paris to pray with a minyan, or minyan, M-I-N-Y-A-N. Minyan? I'm not sure. The Jewish community that had only peripherally been a part of his childhood showed up for him in full force. Still, Jacob was by no means an expert on Jewish religious life. Even after a year of daily services, he struggled with anything beyond basic Hebrew. Minyan. Okay. The unfortunate byproduct of his shoddy Hebrew school education in New York, which ended abruptly when he turned 13. But Jacob valued his Jewish identity, and he especially valued the Hanukkah traditions that had been passed down to him from his bubby. When he thought back to his childhood and to that one summer spent away from his crumbling home life at Camp Ahava in the Berkshires, he remembered it fondly. Rabbi Aaron Goldblatt appeared from his study then, checking that his knitted kippah was firmly attached to his head, and he began doing final checks. He set the timers on the lights. He turned off all the cell phones. He powered down the computers. Shabbat was to be 25 hours without technology, without work, without interruption, and Rabbi Goldblatt took his religious obligations seriously. Dr. Rubenstein responded to her husband's lead in this dance like an expert partner. Without saying a word, she was in movement, turning down the stove, turning on the hot plate, taking off her apron, and finally, she gathered up the guests from the living room and called in the kids from outside. It was time for the candle lighting. Affixing a small lace doily to the top of her head, Dr. Rubenstein struck a match. The 3 little girls peered over the kitchen counter, sticking their fingers in their mouths. It was beautiful, a magical type of moment that Jacob wanted to preserve in his memory forever, when the front door burst open. "Wait!" came a shout. "I made it! I'm here!" And in the threshold, out of breath and hair disheveled, stood Rachel. Dun, dun, dun. I guess tomorrow we're going to see how that's going to... Oh, no, not tomorrow. Tomorrow's Sunday. Monday, we'll see how that's going to go. Well, well, well. Oh, what have we here? You know what, Julia? I've actually seen one before. I've been to a Jewish wedding before. I just didn't know how to pronounce it. But I did see one get signed at a wedding. Yeah. It was nice. Well, that was very cool. Love to see it. I am going to skadooch because I have to get those last orders packed. I have to go to the farmer's market. And then we have icy making class today at 4:30 p.m. They're going to each other. Yeah, I hope so. We'll see though, right, Julia? We don't know. No spoilers. Right now they hate each other. So there's that. All right. I will see you all this afternoon over for class. It is so good, right, Whitney? Very, very good. If you need to catch up and hear yesterday's chapters, it's already uploaded on the YT app. So this one will be uploaded later today, and everyone who missed any of it can catch up before Monday, and we'll keep chugging right along. You're not even a book girly? Well, maybe you'll become one. Anya wasn't a book girly until book club, and now she's a book girly, right? So you never know what could happen in book club. We're making a reader out of everybody. All right, I will see you all this afternoon. I hope you have a great day until then. Goodbye.